Hi, my name is Savannah Hewitt, and the topic I'm covering today is separation of church and state. Before I get started, I want to say that I mean no disrespect to anyone's religious beliefs. This is my topic, and I want to share information that I found on it. I am not condemning any one religion or anyone's personal beliefs, so I hope no one takes offense, and that is not what I mean in any way, shape, or form. So my topic is the separation of church and state, and my claim is that secular structures are essential for democracy to function. By having the church integrated within secular structures, there seems to be a disconnect, and there are a lot of issues resulting with this. How does this allow for more inclusion? How does keeping an institution secular allow for more inclusion? Well, you don't have a particular religion dominating a specific institution, particularly schools. When you have a specific religious belief, then this tends to exclude other people who do not feel the same way. What system of morality is our country going to be based upon? It's long said that we are an American country, that we are a Christian country. Morality does not have to be tied to religion. There's an old statement that just because you go to church doesn't make you a Christian, and that's kind of true with how our democracy is as well. You do not have to have Christian foundations to have morality or to have a lawful society that can be built upon without a religious influence. How does this change American culture? American culture is very integrated with Christianity itself, even though we abide by church and state separation. We expect prayer at sporting events. We have religious statements on government buildings. This is still seen nationwide. So how will this affect our culture? We have a very diverse culture with many different religions, ethnicities, and cultural integrations. So this is just part of the changing times. And that's one of the things that I found in my research, is that the separation of church and state is kind of viewed as more of a newer way, a more progressive way of running our government, because a lot of the beliefs of having Christianity integrated into our cultural society as a democracy is very antiquated and kind of out of touch with all of our cultural diversity that we see. The last thing that I was concerned about with coming to an idea about why these claims are valid is, how do we avoid targeting Christianity itself? A lot of articles that I read were kind of targeting Christianity and blaming them for this, which is, I think, very unfair. And we need to take a step back and think this was a foundation system. This was not a condemnation. It was not to exclude others. It was a foundation. It was a basis to build our government. Again, this is not 1776, so things have changed, but this was how our government was initially founded. So I think it's important to keep in mind that Christianity was a basis. It was a foundation for building the Constitution, for building a system of government for a new country. There are several fallacies that contribute to this argument, such as American tradition. As I mentioned earlier, how many times do we see Christian elements are integrated into secular environments and even non-secular environments, such as a baseball game? Any kind of sporting event, you always see prayer. Granted, that's not a secular event, but that's just kind of an indication of how Christianity is integrated into our society. If you've ever been to court and you've had to swear on the Bible, right there, that is a conflict, because if you are not a Christian, do you feel comfortable swearing on a Bible? Do you feel like you are swearing to tell the whole truth on a religious book that you personally do not feel is valid? So that can be kind of a fallacy too with American tradition. Another is that we are founded upon Christianity. Yes, we are founded upon Christianity. It was the basis and the building blocks of some of our laws and our structures. I understand and respect that, but that's also, again, changed with the times and not necessarily relevant anymore. We know that a lot of foundational governments that are functional were not built on Christianity. It is not something that has to be integrated into any particular secular system of government for it to function well. There are many other religious books you can look at where morality and foundation seem to work well together. The Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu is one. There are several others that you can look up and see that, yes, there is a foundational system, but it is not required. One side of the argument is that, are we taking freedoms away by removing this? And my focus on this was with schools, public schools, not private schools, of course. There was an interesting article by a man named Jeff Diamont, who was part of the Pew Research Center, which was a research center that focused on the integration of religion into public schools and the importance. And they did find that teens are more likely to participate in prayer and religious events in the South. Of course, the southern part of the United States, so particularly Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, they were more likely to be involved in religious activities inside a public school, a secular institution. And by removing that, was that affecting the culture of the students? Was that affecting the overall morale of the students? How was that affecting their social lives? How was that affecting a lot of extracurricular activities? So I did find that interesting. Again, it's not taking freedom away, it's removing it from part of the curriculum, which that was a big problem. Was that what I found with this article was that it wasn't taking the freedoms away from the students if they wanted to pray before a sporting event. It was that Christian values were being taught and nothing else was. For example, evolution was not part of a curriculum. It was the creation story from Christianity. So that was kind of a little bit of a skewed article that I found. A lot of the articles that were against the separation of church and state were very skewed, and I found that the data did lean more toward you're just taking our freedom away, rather than let's look at the curriculum and how that it's affected by that. Another interesting side of the argument is that what is the real meaning of the separation of church and state? There's an article written by a man named James Langford for the New York Times, which is very interesting, and he stated that that integrating church and state is unconstitutional because it violates the First Amendment of the Constitution. Langford emphasizes the freedom of religion and the importance of inclusions of all peoples, and this really spoke to me because if you include a specific religion, any religion, into the government, you are violating the First Amendment of the Constitution. And that's kind of what was missing from every other article that I read that was pro for this, that was against separation of church and state. It did not focus on the Constitution. It would say that the Constitution was founded upon Christianity, but it did not say that integrating one religion was a violation, which it clearly is. So that is kind of a bittersweet point for a lot of people on both sides of this, is that if we look at the Constitution and what the Constitution says in the First Amendment, we have a freedom of religion, but we also have a freedom from it in secular environments. My evidence that I have presented and I found show that yes, religion is important. All religions are important, but we do not need to have them as a foundational point in our government and in our secular government-run buildings such as schools, libraries. We do not need that to function. We need to build a foundation that is removed from a specific religious doctrine, and that is any religious doctrine, because it excludes a lot of individuals. Yes, America is a primarily Christian nation, but there are a lot of individuals who are not. My research found that more and more every year of younger people, such as the elder millennials like myself or Gen Z, are moving away from religion itself. So the structure that we have to have a Christian nation to function, even though it is a constitutional violation, seems to be irrelevant anymore. And this has just kind of changed with the times. Again, I find that the separation of church and state is vital for our function of our government, because we have to be fair and impartial. And if we have a particular religion driving our government and our democracy, then we cannot have that, and we cannot be impartial. Thank you.